Hey, what's going on? And this is another episode for The Way I See It, right there. And this is for about 4:10. So the way I see it, I think that this is actually becoming more of a thing for me, like being able to kind of talk about the things that are going on in my life, or the things I have ideas to talk about in the future. It's a great place to kind of you're able to kind of talk about things on a daily basis. I get a chance to kind of break these things down into small nuggets of information that can be placed on various YouTube platforms, and to help drive awareness on what you're truly trying to say or do. And it's going really well. The next thing I've been doing recently, actually for today, because I was trying to come up with the next newsletter, is that I'm going through all of my email contacts, the people I've actually talked to throughout the last ever since all from people I spoke to all forever, and it's exciting because I get a chance to think about what I want to really to say to people. And now when I have a video like this, or I'm writing an email or something, I'm trying to get people to understand what is actually important and what isn't. I think that a lot of people at first may think there's some sort of immediate thing I'm trying to sell, and I'm not trying to sell anything. I think really what I want to do is I want people to understand who I am as a person first. Then we can move up into this area where we work on as a business to sell whatever. But I think with that being said, that's 2 minutes little introduction, is that we're talking about radical transparency, which is what I was talking about yesterday. And what I'm trying to get people to understand is that radical transparency is it doesn't really mean that you share everything that is on your mind, or you're you talk about all your private businesses. It's more like you're transparent about what you actually believe, and then in public you try to promote that in some shape or form. Now, something that I've actually ran into is that I've noticed that some people might listen to some of the things I'm talking about on my podcast or my videos, and then tries to go ahead and regurgitate that back to me if they meet me in person, or they meet me on the phone. They might try to say the same things, and it's a very funny thing that when you're doing this every day, you know how people talk to you when you don't talk to them, and you know how people talk to you when you do talk to them. You also can tell that some people might have listened to some of the things you've been talking about, and it becomes very easy to maybe even make mistakes sometimes that somebody might have done it or not. So it's very interesting, to actually have something to say or talk about things publicly about something like this, and then not have the audience that you might assume you would have. Maybe basically what I would want to hear would be people are personally saying, I agree with what you're doing, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. But it sounds like people just maybe copy what you're saying, or they kind of sound like they want what they want. Somebody even offered me a job. I'm I don't know why I have a job. It's not about work. I feel like some people would never do this. They would never show their face online if they didn't they were desperate for something. And that's the problem. I think that as time goes on, you want to be able to still be able to connect with the people that are in your life on a platform that doesn't necessarily take up too much time during your day, and it also allows me to see you and you to see me. And I've also noticed that since this is the second week of me doing this, and I'm noticing that it makes it very easier for me to ask people to be on the podcast. So I actually got 2 people, who agreed to come on the podcast. I'm not going to say their names yet, but they have been on other podcasts publicly, in the past, and I was excited because of the fact that, you know, I didn't have to really even, I didn't know them. They were more like happy to talk about themselves, and they were, you know, so it's really cool to be able to do that. And they kind of like have the same interest of what I'm looking to do, because I don't even have to ask them that, because they've already talked about it on their own show. So, you know, when the next few weeks, you know, after I make the interview, and I will probably add it to the podcast. I think that's exciting about it. Like the whole, you know, I get a chance to like have a real conversation about something that I'm interested in and they're interested in, and we can kind of like share that with the world. That is what I think is exciting about. That's the take I get from podcasting and blogging, is that it's about you, but it's also about it's all about everybody else and how we all work together. You know, there's a podcast that I listen to. It's called what was the name of it? Oh no, I don't know. Well, it's very similar to like the Joe Rogan show, but it's not the Joe Rogan show. I may find the name and I'll put it in the you know, I have this little thing right over here that kind of like talks about what I'm looking to do, and you know, it just helps explain things in text. What the thing is oh yeah, like they have random people online, you know, random people on their show, and they just like talk about stuff. And one thing about doing that is that you don't really have to, you don't have to even agree on everything, or you might not always, you might agree with the person's podcast, but everybody he may have on the show may or may not be a fan of yours, but you'll be able to listen to them, because since you're listening to the podcast and they're the interviewer and they're the interviewee, they may ask questions that you might want to ask. So like they were like on your side, you know. And this is something I always thought was going to be great to do, to kind of have these like debates, or to generate, you know, action to a particular task, and being able to get people to actively consume content, you know. And the one way I like to do is like you start with people you know closely, you know, and we just slowly grow with people we know. Whenever we're ready to kind of like get more followers, you have an email broadcast. That's the newsletter that you send out to people on different emails, and you get a chance to get them to be used to what you're doing on a regular basis, and then you'll be able to get them to kind of consume all types of things from you, because of the fact that they're so used to the format, and you don't even have to explain the format anymore. The format is just open up there. Like another podcast was This American Life with Ira Glass. That was like from 2005 to like maybe 2012 ish. This is American Life with all it was an NPR on radio, but it was like a podcast, and that was like I listened to it. It basically was like it had a theme, and they would basically they would have 3 reports or 3 stories that would basically pertain to that theme. One of the things they had recently actually was what was one of the things they had? It was they found Fantasy 7, and like about how a game made them cry. I don't know, I forget the name of the theme, but it wasn't exactly about games. It was about something about that made them cry, or something that was really sad to them. I forget, something about that. And the first article was Final Fantasy, and they brought up the music from the part in the term spoilers. You know, one of the characters die, and because Aerith dies in the story, it was a big deal for me. I was like, oh my god, you know, it was kind of surprised. And the fact that it just randomly showed up on his show is not a gaming podcast whatsoever, but it was just great that there are writers on the show now that can relate to that scene. And I think I'll try to find out where that is, because maybe I'll add the link into somewhere. But yeah, it was actually pretty cool. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to kind of share that, where you talk about something that's really important to you, and then I choose whether to listen to it or not, you know. And because you know, it connects us as a group, you know, in this I don't know how to really say it. We're able to just like, it's kind of like how you talk with your friend that you might go to school with, or you might go to work or with, or whatever, but you can find people just like that face to face, you know. So yeah, that's basically my idea. So anyway, that's it. I guess the next video will be tomorrow, and I'm maybe gonna try to have some more content. I'm working on this, so anyway.